All right, good morning, cyber traders. Welcome on back here this Thursday morning, December 1st. Top of the month to everyone here inside the live trading room. Brian, Andrea, we have Grant, we have Chuck, Jim, we have Renzo. We had Leda here a moment ago. We had John, Wayne, and all of us just here inside the Cyber Group room. Great to see you all here. Of course, if you're joining us on social media, Facebook Live or YouTube, you could tell already. This is not the voice of one Fausto Pugliese, I always like to say. I just got the hot tag from him to do the meeting a moment ago. He's on a call, and he'll be good to go for all of us inside the live trading room, at least by the time the market opens. But, I just had to tag in and just do this meeting for him. So with that said, folks, we have a lot to talk about. The SPY ended up having a nice little pop after 8 o'clock. Some financial information came out, initial jobless claims, personal spending, U.S. personal income, just in terms of just what the number is versus the expectation was. And I ended up having a little pop early on. But with that, this RMED stock, at least to begin pre-market, ended up having a nice pop after the 8 o'clock move, ended up breaking back over 3, led to a nice 50-cent move for the most part. But after that initial squeeze, I will say this stock, nice trend off the lows here. That's easy to say in hindsight, but perhaps one would have wanted this to have made an even better, sharper move in that consolidated trend up. So, just history could repeat itself, right? Not just in the sense of this dumping off right now. I mean, hey, this could dump off lower after the open, but it could also be really choppy too. So, hey, the stock is up big. Let's see if there's any news on this trade, if anything. So I'm just on Benzinga Pro really quickly to begin. And I don't have any real news on this stock, RMED, RMED. Nothing really since, I think, like November 14th earnings. That's not too good. That's like kind of a red flag. So, with that in mind, at least, you want to be careful. We've seen stocks pump off of no news in the past, but if there's no fundamental catalyst for it, then there might not be enough attraction from buyers to continue to jump in or even just to squeeze up a little bit more. So with that, I mean, hey, this is trending down now off the highs. I'd just be a little wary of that. I'll put this on our list to begin. Probably not near the top, though, by the end of it all. Really quick, I just want to make sure I delete a post inside the chat board here, folks. We want to protect you. This is a public chat board. You never know who's in here, so to say, right? We're all family, and I feel like all of us here are great and with great intention, but just had someone like post like their phone number in the public chat board. Trying to protect you. We'll make sure we reach out to you, Jai. No problem there. With that, though, Warren inside the chat board, as I'm just still looking, he says, lost 4 cents on RMED right now. Yeah, hey, 4 cents. Hey, this thing's slipping back down pretty quickly. So that's not a bad trade. But with that in mind, though, you don't want to jump back in. And let's just kind of follow this trend off the highs here for right now. All right. But with that, though, there's a lot to talk about still, folks. I mean, hey, the SPY ended up making the pop this morning. But of course, we have to talk about yesterday. You could just see on my 5-minute chart, if anything, this is what had happened after 1:30 Eastern yesterday, where Powell ended up giving some remarks about inflation and perhaps lowering the increased hikes across time beginning coming up in December. So with saying that, had a huge reaction out of the S&P, the major indices. The SPY here, of course, ended up having a nice pop into the close. So hopefully that looks to continue, even if there's a pullback at the open. Look for a slingshot, look for a bounce off support. Let's go through some trades from yesterday, though, that we ended up just smashing it on. We ended up killing these trades, folks. The Shopify, right, just from the afternoon meeting yesterday, right, at 2:30. If you missed out on the initial pop, that's all right. That's all right. This thing ended up, breaking right above 40. This essentially is 40. And then ended up coming right back down during our afternoon meeting when I was doing that for you folks. And, it ended up making the perfect pop, bounce, I should say, perfect bounce, and ended up, popping back up into the close, up another 1.6% this morning. The more this moves up, the issue is that it's going to more become out of our price range to trade, right? We try and keep these stocks between $1 and like 30, $1 and 35 or something like that. The more this squeezes up, eventually we're going to say, all right, there are other trades within our range, right? So I'm going to put this on our side list. It's not on the main watch list for right now, but listen, if you do well on Shopify day to day, I am certain that you're going to be more inclined to put it on your personal list, and I would agree with that. I think that's a good idea. But there's going to be a lot that looks kind of like this, up that 1 to 2 to 3%. So we're going to have to really sift through once again this morning. One that I just remember that Chuck called out just from yesterday. It just popped up in the back of my head here. The Roblox trade, right? We ended up doing pretty well on this from Chuck's call out. Ended up breaking over the highs off of like nearly 30.50 there, and then ended up making that same type of pattern, pulled back, ended up bouncing from 3 o'clock into the close. So pretty straightforward on that. Even the Petco trade, woof. This was more active early in pre-market off of its own news, off of earnings. Ended up dropping off shortly after the open, but from that point led to a nice bounce, and then more in the afternoon ended up leading to a good squeeze. So, I can keep going, folks, right? And I'm sure that we'll find a couple of these more on the gainers and losers just this morning, right? But with that though, I mean, it was a really good day yesterday. If you were here for it, congratulations, because this is essentially what Fausto and myself train you folks to do on a day-to-day basis. It's not every day that we're going to see such a clean pop across the markets. I mean, that was within a couple of hours, 2.5 hours time, from 1:30 Eastern into the close. So you're really not going to find days, afternoons like this as often. So when it comes, it's like more like a gift, right? It's more like a treat, a gift, because this is exactly what we train you for. Now, with that though, speaking of training, a couple of things just housekeeping wise to continue with right now. Just if you are a student of CTU, just so you know, I'm speaking to really most of us inside the live trading room. You can go right on the student portal and check the class calendar, folks, because, keep in mind that we are continuing the phase 2 stock course today, beginning it, I should rather say, but, we are jumping back into the phase 2 curriculum. We're going to continue our talks with time and sales and level 3. I'll be honest with you, I'll probably sprinkle in a little level 4 book map into it, and be honest with you. I know that I've been hyping up this big class for the phase 1 course in December, but probably sprinkle in a little book map for this. But nonetheless, though, the phase 2 classes are beginning today. That's at 10:30 Eastern time, then at 12 p.m. Eastern time. Kind of a funky schedule, just with how we had to reshuffle the classes for this month. But just want to let you folks know that we'll have the link in the chat board just later on this morning. All right, just give me a quick moment here, folks. Marathon, man, this whole week. So with that, not just the phase 2, but also keep in mind, actually at 2 p.m. Eastern time, I believe Fausto is doing an introductory to day trading webinar for all of us on YouTube and Facebook Live. Just stay tuned for that. He's going to be broadcasting that, I believe, right on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/cybertradingu. So just make sure that you like and subscribe there. He'll be on at 2 p.m. Eastern time for our introductory to day trading webinar. But with that, though, let's just go right from top to bottom now. Let's see what we have to work with here heading into the market open. This PAFO up 37%, but it's only trading 186,000 shares. And I say only because look at everything else. So, you'd like to think for a stock up 35%, it should be trading a little bit more, right? So for right now, I'm going to pass on this trade. I passed on it on putting it on our pre-market watch list early, and I'm happy that I did that because really it hasn't really done much of anything. Allowed us to focus more on the RMED trade after 8 o'clock, right? But again, this one kind of trending back down. It's on our list already off of no news. We'll keep it going. But yeah, MULN, nice cheapie here, right? We normally don't focus on these stocks price below $1, especially if it's like really south of $1, like 20 cents, 5 cents. We really try to avoid these. It's not nearly as often that this will make as concise of a move. But thankfully here this morning, you ended up seeing a higher high, at least going into the market open for MULN. If anything, this stock we are pretty familiar with just because over the last year and a half, we did end up getting our hands on this trade. You could see like back from late October, perhaps, but that's not what I'm referring to. Yeah, back from the beginning of this year, you have to go back a little bit, but back from the beginning of this year, ended up having a nice run on this trade. It was a pretty cheap stock back then, led to a nice pop. Just pretty funny how you take your eyes off a day trade for a long amount of time. We really haven't focused on it since then. Just remember the stock because it was a nice, runner back then. But yeah, I mean, right now this thing fell apart, fell all the way down at 20 cents, 19 cents. Listen, it's pumping up right now, but there's bigger, better, easier fish in the sea to catch right now, I think. So let's focus on that. All right, I'll turn me over to tops. I don't know if this is going to be an easier efficiency to catch, but perhaps a bigger and more advantageous one if the stars could align. So, tops ended up having a nice pop yesterday morning, but that's where we were saying, though, if the wheels fall apart on a trade like this, and same to be said on RMED too, but when the wheels fall off, this thing will really drop off. It will drop off as fast as it pumped up. So you have to be careful in that regard. It's up 9% from the close yesterday, but don't forget about this drop off, right? Just as much as I said on RMED that history could repeat itself with the drop off lower into the open, seemed to be said here on tops. So I'm not fully sold on putting this on our morning watch list now. I had it on our pre-market list in hopes of like a bigger and better pop. After the open, if it ends up popping, then I'll turn to it. But we'll just focus on others. All right, what else we got here, folks? Now we're kind of below 5%. Interesting. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more that's up that like 2-3%, like I was referencing earlier. You got the ride trade right off of 175. We were hoping for a pop on this off of 175 a little bit earlier, like really earlier at like 8:45. So it's just gone flat since even then. But yeah, I mean, for right now, this just I'll put on our side list. We only have the RMED on our watch list right now. All right, let's hop over to the loser side right now, folks. Seeing if there's anything looking just as good, if not better. A bunch of stuff hard to borrow. I try and kind of gloss over those, skip over those. ESTC, like $52 stock. I just wanted to look at it quickly, but pass on that. Big, we've traded big in the past. It's a pretty liquid trade. Trading 112,000 right now this morning, down big, perhaps off of earnings. Either way, whatever it's down off of, this could be a good stock to follow after the open. Keyword is could, right? That kind of ambiguous word right there. Maybe after the open we'll call it out, but let's just see what else is out here. That might just turn me back to like an XPEV, which honestly I forgot to toss in there with the morning review from yesterday. So, XPEV ended up making obviously one of the bigger moves across the day yesterday, ended up having a big pop to where it ended up, I think, closing over 51% up. So ended up having a big pop prior to the open, and then shortly even afterwards ended up providing for a nice bounce, and then ended up just taking off from that point. So ended up making for a great trade. One big level to watch. Well, now I should say a couple of big levels to watch looking at this year. But yeah, on the XPEV trade, you had a 4 million share print that was filled yesterday mid morning at 10:16. So that's going to be a key level to watch. But on top of that, you end up having this giant, enormous closing bell print. Speaking of that, we'll talk all about these closing bell prints and big prints that I'm referencing here in class coming up, the phase 2. But 1081. 1081, the close from yesterday. That's going to be a monster level for this XPEV trade. So focus on those two, if anything, 1016, 1081. But yeah, XPEV, just in terms of a tradable stock and how much it moved yesterday, and I feel like it will just be as active today in some regards. So I'll put this on our main list. Mike saying big should have earnings today. Hey, if it moves nicer than it is now, then we'll call it out. Roger saying tops waking up. I guess I'll look at that again. Yeah, it's trying, I guess, also here, right? Little bounce back up, but I don't know. I mean, I guess we don't really have much else to put on our list, Roger, do we? I mean, you could say the same on big, but otherwise, yeah, I guess I'll put tops on there now at this point. Hoping more than anything. Chuck saying RIG and saying that's more stable than tops. Are they in the same business? If they are, I didn't know that. Wayne says RIG is like Halliburton's little brother. Okay. I mean, oil stock in that regard, right? A little pop on Halliburton. I mean, not a whole lot of volume trading on that. Normally, if there's an oil stock that we'd follow or petroleum stock, it would be Oxy, Apache, those two mainly. Chuck saying, I like the ALT chart, but like low volume, he's saying. Yeah, I agree. I fully agree, actually. Up over 8%. So you'd like to think something could happen on this trade, but just like Chuck pointed out, he's right. Like just that for only up 8%, 8.5, or for being up as much as 8.5%, you'd like to think there'd be more volume traded on this. So yeah, I'll pass for right now. But actually, I'm going to write this down on my side list, Chuck. I'm not going to forget about this now. All right. So I'll tell you what, folks. Kind of small list to begin, but there's a reason why, right? We kind of sifted through pretty much everything. So if there's a stock that's trading a lot of volume that's not on this list that you did well on yesterday, a la Shopify, a la Roblox, a la, hell, it could be a lot of things. Neo, Lee, Snapchat, the Wolf trade, if anything, right? Maybe that pops again after the open. If you did well on a stock yesterday and it's tradable and trading a lot of volume and activity here in pre-market, then you put it personally on your watch list, because that's how we're going to need to work together as a team on a day like today. All right. For all of us on social media, Facebook Live and YouTube, I appreciate you folks sticking with myself this morning, tagging in for Fausto, for all of us inside the live trading room. Fausto, I believe, should be good to go upon the market opening up. If you wanted to join our live trading room for all of us on YouTube and Facebook Live, just go right down to the link on the blue banner below the stream to get yourself started. If you have any questions beforehand, I always like to post my email here at the end, josh@c2trading.com. All right, folks, but otherwise, for all of us on social media, I'll be back at 2:30 Eastern myself. I normally host the afternoon meetings if you're not joining us normally in the afternoon. So, hey, stick around if possible. I'll be back on at 2:30 for you folks. But otherwise, for Dan, Grant, Chuck, Leda, Wayne, Robert, and all of us just inside the live trading room, got to catch my breath. But we'll be good for the market open, folks. I'm just joking, but we'll be all set, folks. I look forward to it.
Become a Cyber Group member today. Just click the link below and receive all these amazing products and a world of knowledge for just $9. Do it today.